Welcome to video number 5 in our series of videos around asset management for Dynamics 365. Today, the topic is the analysis and report and follow-up tools that is available for you to follow up on your entire operation regarding asset management. As you can see here, this is number 5. We've done the planned maintenance, we've done the unplanned maintenance, we've performed, executed, processed our work orders, and now it's time to harvest the registrations that we have. So, of course, depending on how much registrations we've done on the work order, on the assets, that's also gonna tell us how much output we can get. But I'm gonna go over some of the tools that are available. Some of the things that is available just out of the box is the history and the logs. It's typically something that you would like to follow up and see the history and the logs for your assets. So when you get out there, you have to do the service or the repair, that then you can go back and have a look at the history of that before you start working on it. There are also quite some powerful tools for handling cost control. And cost control in this case is the analysis of, for instance, what were our forecasted costs or our budgeted costs versus the actual costs that we have posted. How do they divide between the planned costs and the unplanned costs? And that's some of the things that are available out of the box. Quite powerful, actually. There are some analytics tools based on Power BI. There are some tools for fault analysis, both like a control picture, but a form, but also as a standard report, like a fault statistic. And I'm also going to show you the KPIs that can be calculated for mean time between failure, availability, fault rate, and so on. So that's also an option for you to have OEE measurements in your production if you should choose to do so. And finally, I'm just going to try to sum up how can we use all of these tools, what can we use them for. So first of all, there is some history and some logs. And as I said, in this case, I'm looking at a particular asset. This is a binder. And this is all the things that are logged automatically. And that could be like status changes. For instance, the asset has gone from being a new asset to an active asset and maybe later to a scrapped asset. That type of events is logged automatically. Every time we create a maintenance request, that is also part of the log. Every time we create a work order, it's part of the log. Every time we register fault, it's part of the log. So the purpose of the log is that when you come out there and you need to do service or repair, then you can actually go through the history and see, is there anything that we've seen before, or does it look like we've had very many repairs on this one? So that's what it's for. And that's created automatically. Let's have a look at that. So I'm going to take the active assets. We could pick one of the forklifts that we looked at previously. And we have it up here. This is the event history. So we can see here we actually have quite a long history. But if I go to the latest, which we have on top, I can see, for instance, in this case, that the latest thing we've done was a work order. I can also see the state of that work order. Currently, it's created. If I look at the cleaning job, it's also created. I've done some maintenance requests. I've done a work order. So this is the full log of everything that's been done, including the status of these work orders or requests, and also posted hours, posted checklist, how everything that is relevant for me to evaluate the condition and the how the asset is actually working. The next topic I would like to discuss is the cost control. It's called cost control, but think of it as a cost overview. That this is out of the box. We have every cost for a selected period of time. We can see this is my budget of cost. This is my actual cost. These and the cost, how do they divide between preventive or planned cost versus corrective, unplanned cost? And there could also be committed cost. Committed cost could be, for instance, a purchase of a service or a purchase of some items where we haven't received the invoice yet. Then they would be shown here. And up here, we can then group these costs by a period or by asset or by location or by work order. But let's have a look at it in the system. So we go here, we go to the inquiries. I'm going to go to the assets and the asset cost control. And here I then select a period of time that I'm interested in to look at. And I've decided I don't want to see the ones that are 0. So first of all, I get a sum. So I can see here that my original budget was 5,800, but my actual was 7,500. And they divide for 6,300 in preventive or planned cost and 1,258 for corrective unplanned cost. I don't have any open committed cost. I don't have any, for instance, a confirmed purchase order, which have not yet been invoiced. But I would like to see it. How does that divide these costs? How do they divide, for instance, per asset type? So I can click up here and say, what if I look at it from the asset type perspective? Then I can see that my binder as an asset type has original budget of 550, but the actual costs are way higher. And the conveyor, I have a budget of 1,300, but the actual costs are lower. So even though that I have the sum looked maybe okay, then this will help me to dive down and say, okay, where are the big deviations? So that's one way to do it. What I can also see here is that I can also divide it in another way. I could say I don't care about the asset type. I would like to see it by maintenance job type. So in this case, I can see I do this much cleaning, I do this much inspection, repair, and service. So that's another way to look at it. Or I can do both and say, please give it to me by asset type and maintenance job type. So it does this automatic grouping and summarizing of your costs based on everything that's been posted for the period of time that you have decided. The last thing I wanted to show you was, if we look at the asset type, we also have the possibility to look at transaction type. Transaction type in this case is typically the hours, the work hours that I've spent and the spare part items. So this is another way where I can see that this was my budget. I budgeted with 554 hours, but I've actually spent 1,730 on hours, but I've also spent quite a lot on spare parts, and I didn't have a budget for that. So my spare part is not part of my budget as they should have been. In this particular one, we focus on the cost, the dollars, the euros. There's a similar control which is called the hour control, which focuses specifically, not as much as the dollars or the euros, but more how good are we to estimate the number of hours or the time we need to perform this. So it's basically the same, but we focus on the number of hours. You can see here that quite a lot of different types of control that you can take. So these were just a few examples. Let's continue. Besides these control forms or views, there is also the analytics. We've seen them before. We have analytics in relation to the work orders. We have analytics in relation to the maintenance request. So there are quite a few of those analytics out of the box. Let's have a look at that. We go to the workspaces. Let's start with the maintenance request. As you saw in video number 3, we have some analytics out of the box. So based on all the registrations that we've made, we get this picture made by BI. And for instance, I can see here how the request divide by state or by type. And then I can filter, for instance, for a particular site or a particular period or particular type. So that's some of the things that I can do. So I have the maintenance request insights, but I also have something called here maintenance request details, which is more like something more Excel-like, where I can see how the request divide. What's the status of the request? What job type is it? What asset type is it? And so on. And all of this information can, of course, be exported to Excel for further processing if you want to do your own analysis. So that's some of the things that you have out of the box. Let's try to open the work order management workspace. We have analytics. And we can see here the amount of unplanned work orders as opposed to planned work orders. In this case, it's 48%. That's not necessarily a problem in itself, because it's not a purpose in itself to have 100% planned work, because that would make it way too expensive. So it's more like, what is the ratio that you would like to aim for? Maybe you would like to aim for that 75% of the work should be planned, or 60% of the work should be planned. So it's more to have a look at what is your aim and how is it going when comparing to that aim. We also here have the work order details. So in this case, I can see how the work orders are divided by asset type. What about the unplanned work orders? What are the unplanned work orders by asset? So all of these are something that you get automatically depending on the amount of registrations that you do. And finally, we have the asset repair insights. So that's some of the KPIs that the system can also offer for mean time between failure, and how they are divided by asset or asset type. But let's get back. The next topic I would like to show is the fault analysis. Again, this requires, of course, that you want to register faults. If you don't register faults, we can't give you fault statistics. So it's typically something that you might want to leave for a later phase. Maybe you don't want to start out with that. But once you do start, then that could actually give you some powerful insights on how does your fault divide by type or by symptom, or the cause of the problem. For instance, in this case, the fault cause could be it's a maintenance problem, lack of maintenance problem. It's the operator. It's an accident. So the more you want to register, the more analysis you can get out. You can group them by fault types or by asset, and then you can export them if you want to do your own types of analysis. The fault types, the fault areas, the fault causes, all of these fault codes are something that you define yourself as part, so it fits your business, it fits your the processes that you have. So it's your fault codes that you put in here. Let's have a look at that. There are basically two ways we can do it. We can do it as a asset fault analysis. So let's just see, we would like to see everything. And again, you can see here a sum, and then I can say I would like to see it by asset type, for instance. And then we can see here that the different asset types, how many symptoms have we seen on those? And I can also say, okay, and what was the symptom? Update again. So I can see if I look at the binder, I've had 2 times where the problem was a leak, 1 time where it was a low pressure, and 1 time where it was stopped. And how they divide by percentage or probability. So that's one way to look at it, like the control view we looked at for the cost. But specifically for faults, we also have a regular report, like a statistics. So I'm going to pull out the asset fault statistic. And again, I can decide I have a period. Let's go from last year until today. And then that would be more like a standard report that we can use for this. While we wait for this, let's just prepare for okay. So here is the fault report, and you can see it by asset. What are the number of faults that we have registered, and what types were they? And if we go to the end, you can see here a summary of those, and we can also see how they divide. So for instance, in this case, 52% of all asset faults was something related to stopped. 67% of fault cause was related to poor maintenance. That's how this is interpreted. And 17% was something where we needed to do repair and so on and so on. So again, I think there are some really powerful tools that you can just pick and choose if you are willing to do the registrations for this. Let's go back to the presentation. Besides the controls and the reports, the system also offers you the ability to calculate the standard KPIs, typically related to production. So it could be like automatic calculation of availability, mean time between failure, fault rate, and so on. But it all requires that you register downtime, you register when it's up and running again, you register your faults, you register your work order types. So it requires the registrations in order for the system to calculate this. And in some cases, the customer has different systems to calculate these specific figures. So just to mention that this is also a possibility that's offered in the system. The last thing I wanted to discuss is how can we use this? How can we use all these tools that are available to us? First of all, the history, the logs, the fault follow-up. Do we have assets with recurring faults and repairs? Do we have something where these assets keep giving us trouble? So that's important. What are the causes of that, and what should we do about it? What can we do about it? That's some of the things that we can use it for. Are we good enough to forecast? If we have a very big difference between our forecasted or budgeted maintenance cost and our actual cost, then it means we're not good at forecasting. And that also means that we will always be above budget. It means that we will always be lacking. It's difficult for us to plan on our workers because we think something is taking 2 hours, but it's actually taking 5 hours. So this tells us, should we have adjust the forecast before we, in order to get a better picture, a more realistic picture of what's actually going on? Do we have the desired ratio between the planned and unplanned? As I was saying before, it's not a goal in itself that we have 0 unplanned maintenance. It's more like you need to decide what's a good ratio for you. For instance, we would like that 30% of our maintenance is unplanned, but the 70% should be planned. And then have a look at, okay, and is that actually also what we're seeing? Is the availability on the equipment as expected? Again, it's not possible to have 100% availability, but is it the availability as you would expect or as you would like to see? And again, is it going up or is it going down? Do we see something that's going in the wrong direction? What are the typical faults that we see? So again, the typical fault might be the engine is stopped or lubrication is not working properly. What are the typical remedies? Is it often related to poor maintenance? Maybe we should up our planned maintenance, or is it typically related to operator? Do we need to educate our operators more than they are today, and so on? And finally, are there any tendencies we need to investigate? So if something is going in the wrong direction, it changes from ratio 30% to 40% in unplanned maintenance, then that's a tendency we need to look into and investigate and see if we can do something about that. So I actually think that the tools that are available in asset management can answer a lot of those questions and help you to figure out where is it that something you need to look into and what can you do about it. Again, this is a seminar, a video number 5. If you want to see all of them, please look at our AlfaPeople in the webinars folder. And if you have any questions, you want to look more into this, if you want to demo, please don't hesitate to call us. Thank you very much for your time today.